Hi everyone. Today's lesson will be on email fundamentals. And we're going to start with the basics. Email. What is email? Email is essentially just a letter that is sent between two different computers or two different electronic servers. There are many different types of email providers. The list that is here are some of the top rated free providers that are available to folks. I would suggest for the purpose of our courses to use Gmail, simply because that way it is connected to our Google Classroom, and when you do work, it'll save to your drive, and then you have access to that no matter where you are. So Gmail is a great option. You don't have to only have email though. There are other options depending on what your preferences are and what you're looking for. So here's a list for you. So I want to start with the absolute basics, which is your email address itself. You want to keep it basic, and you really want to try to stay away from over personalization, poor grammar, or anything that could be deemed inappropriate. Like you don't want shaking my booty at gmail.com. Well, fun, not what you really want to have, let's say, on a resume, or if you want to use when you're trying to get a job, get into school, get a certificate, any of those types of things. So there are some best practices that I want to discuss with you. The most basic would be to have your first name and your last name, and then at, let's say, gmail.com. Depending on how common your name is, that may not be available to you. So there are some variations that you can use as well, which I've provided for you here. So there's the basic Jessica Fraga at email provider. Then there's also, you can break it down to just J and Fraga, so just your first initial and your last name. You can also do what is a basic business practice in many businesses, which would be do your first name, period, last name at. So Jessica, period, Fraga at gmail.com. You can also, if none of those are available to you, you can also use your middle name. So I could do Jessica A. Fraga at, or Jessica Ann at, depending on what you want to do. If none of those are available to you, you can add a number to the end. I just always say to be very careful about what number you choose. You do not want to choose something that can be deemed your personal information. So a lot of folks will make the mistake and they'll use like their date of birth or their birth date. You want to stay away from things like that. You want to make sure that it's not attached to anything that could be used to gain access to accounts. So if you have a favorite number, you could have that at the end of it. If none of those are available to you still, then that's where, reach out to someone like myself, and we'll go through it together and try to find one that will work for you. The main reason here is we just want to make sure that you have a strong email address that's going to set you up for success and not failure right off the bat. So once you have your email and you're ready to send an email, you want to make sure that your subject line is very clear and simple. It is meant to summarize the content of that email in as few words as possible. Again, brief, no novels. You want to keep it out of the spam folder. So don't put things in the subject line like you need to see this or this is very important. A lot of those are triggers and they'll get sent directly to your junk or spam folders. If you want your email to be read, which I'm sure you do, keep the subject line concise, short, informative, and use proper punctuation and capitalization. Here are some examples of some good and bad subject lines. So a good one would be career readiness, Jessica Fraga, grade change inquiry or grade change request. Now, I would get that and I'd be like, okay, so this student has a question about this specific grade. So now I know exactly what I'm getting into when I open the email. A bad one, which I've seen, is fix my grade now, or how did I get this grade? Well, tells you what they want to know, not necessarily the correct tone that you're looking for. And again, request a meeting on campus, or, a bad option would be, you want to meet this student or must see you, well, again, tells you what they want. It's not in the correct tone that we're looking for. Now, the most important one here at the bottom, a good option for when you're looking for a job is to put in that subject line, the job opening and the business, or at the very least, the job opening. So a good one would be, registered nurse position at Bay State. A bad, please hire me, I'm super capable, you'll love me. Well, true, not how we want to have it written for a subject line. Now, once you're past that, now you're getting into your greeting, you're opening up your letter to this person. And the reason I'm using the term letter is because I want you to think about an email in the sense of a letter. So letters have a form and a function to them. And you want to still keep some of that in your email, especially when you're writing a letter, a thank you, inquiry about a job, any of those types of things. You want to keep it more formal. So you should use a professional greeting just as you would for a letter. You want to use the appropriate title, whether that Mrs., Ms., Doctor, Professor, etc. Use their full name unless you know or you've already been told that they prefer a nickname or a different name. Otherwise, always stick to their full name. Some examples could be as simple as Dear Jessica or Dear Ms. Fraga. Hello, Jessica. Hi, Professor Fraga. Greetings. If you're unsure, to whom it may concern, dear hiring manager. Good morning. Still appropriate tone, setting the stage for your email. Now, font. Font allows us to personalize what we're writing, but you want to be careful to not over personalize, the same as what we were talking about with your actual email address. So don't use elaborate fonts, which can make it hard to read. The most professional fonts, or the most common fonts to use, are Times New Roman, Arial, or Calibri. And the size should be anywhere between 10 and 12. I always say to go between 11 and 12 is the most common, 12 being the most common, because it's a known font to use and is usually at a readable size. As for color, stick to colors that are basic and, again, easy to read. If it's on a white background, you want a darker font, whether that be black, navy, gray, dark purple, it doesn't matter, but as long as it's simple, clear, easy to read, and doesn't blend with the background so it makes things hard to read. So now here's the meat of what we're talking about, the body, the actual message or letter that you're wanting to send. You want to consider your audience. Like I was talking about before, making sure that your tone matches that audience. For example, if you're emailing a professional, whether that be a business leader, community leader, a program, resources, whatever that may be, you've never met. You want to keep the email polished and free of any jokes or informalities. Nothing, you don't want to put anything in there that could turn this person off to either you or reading the rest of your email. If you're emailing a coworker and you have a good relationship with them, however, you might use a less formal and more friendly approach. So always understand who your audience is and match your tone to that audience. The body of your email is the meat of your message. It must be clear, have a specific purpose, such as getting feedback on a presentation, or would like to arrange a meeting or an interview, for example. It should be concise. Nobody wants to read a novel in an email form. Things should not be more than a couple paragraphs in an email. If it's more than that, to me, that triggers that maybe this shouldn't be an email, and this should be either a face-to-face conversation or a phone call. Most importantly, once you write the body of your email, is to proofread it. I say this for many reasons. One, spell check may catch something and change it, but it may not change it to the appropriate word that you need to change it to. Also, when you're proofreading, you may realize, wow, the grammar doesn't sound right, or the flow doesn't sound right. Oh, I'm missing a word here. So always make sure you proofread. Also, when you're proofreading, double check the email, who you're sending it to. Make sure you're only sending it to the person that you want, that you didn't hit somehow like reply all, or you didn't include something that you didn't want to include. If you're forwarding something to somebody, always make sure you're only forwarding the information you want to forward. Proofreading allows you to go through the email and see these types of things. You don't want to forward on something that you're like later, like, oh, I should not have sent it to that person. Or there was something 3 emails back in that forward that shouldn't have made it to that final person, whatever it may be. So always just proofread for all of these little things. Once you've done that, now you're at the closing, similar to a letter. This is where you read any requests that you've made in the body of your message. So there are specific sign-off examples, and then there's also something called the signature. So your sign-off examples are things like sincerely, all the best, respectfully, and then your signature would then be the information that you're adding about yourself, your full name and your contact information. If you have a title for your job, all of that should be in there. An email that I send you, for example, in the classroom would have my signature at the bottom. And usually I'll use a closing or sign off, such as all the best, and then my signature, you know, Jessica Fraga, Leaders Project, all that kind of fun stuff. Here are some simple do's and don'ts when looking at emails. A little hard to see, I understand, but I wanted to put this in here just because there's some fun little things here for you. Here is a good email sample that I wanted to share with you. Subject line, super clear. Technical reporting, memo question. If I'm getting this, I'm going to know exactly what this is about. Opening, very nice, the greeting, dear Ms. Gard, comma, punctuation, everything's good. I am a student in your technical reporting class and I am confused about today's homework assignment. I would appreciate it if you would explain what you mean by an incident report. Is there a place in the textbook where I can find an example? Thank you very much for your help. Sincerely, Jim. And then their signature, their name, email, phone number. So this email has many great examples. One, again, the subject line is clear, the greeting is appropriate. The email body itself is super clear and concise. It has a specific purpose that is very clear to the reader. And then it has a good signature and closing. This is also a sample thank you email after an interview. Dear whoever the person is that you met with, because this should be personal to the person that you've met with. Thank you for meeting with me today to discuss whatever the position is. You want to make sure you actually put the name of that position in. So I'll use the one we used before. Thank you very much for meeting with me today to discuss the registered nurse position at Bayside Health. It was a pleasure to meet you, and I truly enjoyed discussing. This is where you want to add a reference to the actual conversation that you had. So for this, it could be something as like, I truly enjoyed discussing the culture of the nursing floor and the patient population. I'm excited about the opportunity to lend my skills and my educational background and experience to this surgical team, as I believe I could be a valuable asset in your work. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Please let me know if you need any additional information. I would add to this, you may contact me at the below information, or I look forward to hearing from you. My contact information is below. If I don't hear from you next week, I'll give you a call just to check in. You want to make sure that it's super, super clear. And then again, best regards, your contact information. Always include your contact information in your signature. And then some simple, how do you write a thank you email after an interview? There's some simple do's and there's some definitely simple don'ts. First, send that email right away. You should send that email within a day, if not the same day. Include all of the people that you met with on that interview in that email. Provide links if you have them. If you have samples of your work or things that you've done, you can provide links. Remind them of your qualifications and why you're the right fit for the job. Now, do not send things that are grammatically incorrect. Use Grammarly if you're not sure. If you don't know what that is, we can chat, but it is a Chrome extension that you can add, and it will actually help with your spelling and grammar. Don't send something that makes you look bad. Always check, are there, pictures, quotes, anything that could be deemed inappropriate. And again, do not be too casual. This is where you really, truly want to be professional and show the value that you are going to offer them. And then don't stalk your interviewers. So while I gave the example of, I'll follow up with you in a week if I don't hear from you, that's fine, but you should not be calling every single day, numerous times a day. If you called and left a message, give them at least 48 hours before you respond back to say, hey, just checking in. I didn't hear back from you. I'm still really interested. But you want to make sure that you're not too overly eager, but eager enough. It's a balancing act, but don't stalk them. If they've said that they'll follow up with you in a week, wait the week. If you don't hear from them, then you'd follow up with them, but let them kind of set the tone for that. And if you're unsure what that is, before you leave your interview, you should always ask, when are next steps and when can I expect to hear back from you? And that way you know how to kind of function or build your time into the email and also into following up. And that is the lesson on email etiquette or email basics. If you have any other questions or concerns, you all know how to reach out to me, and I look forward to seeing you in class. Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.